GP Prague. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to live coverage of GP Prague. My name's Riley, I'm joined. It's my great pleasure to introduce once again Szymon Gertzen, the Pro Tour champion. Szymon, you've already said to us that down in the feature match area we have the only players remaining at 8-0. These guys undefeated. They're looking to continue this hot streak and end day number one without having picked up a loss. What are we expecting here? These guys have obviously put together some pretty hot and heavy decks. What are we expecting? Aethersphere Harvesters?
I'm expecting the most powerful, most synergistic, most streamlined, consistent decks that we've seen today. You will not be here without a good deck, a well-built deck, and of course the play skill to convert that into victories.
And so if you had to have a gamble on maybe what colours we might see these players be playing, is there one that's going to raise to the front of your mind here? I'm
going to stick to my earlier feeling that green seems just a notch better than the other colors. But what to combine it with is another question. And also, of course, there are certainly other ways to go. Blue-red, for example, can be really strong.
Looks like Gregor Kowalski is on that Szymon Gertzen train as he plays a forest into an implement of ferocity here. He's off to a flyer with his green cards and paired with green-white. Look at this. So when a SRAM, the Edificer, is coming out already on turn number 2. It'll be interesting to see if he's got a way to leverage the countering ability of the Senior Edificer.
Yeah, not too easy to get massive advantage from it, because auras and equipment are actually quite rare in this set.
Yeah, not so many of them. I mean, vehicles obviously flying around all over the place. And I mean, the thing is, even if you draw one card, you're happy, right? A Brazen Scourge coming down for Tamas Horvath. He's off to the races as well with his 3/3 haste. One card off a SRAM's enough, right?
Yeah, of course. How much do you expect from a 2-mana 2/2, right? That's a solid limited card in and of itself. Gregor has a rather weak turn here, though. Or rather is... okay. He has a relatively aggressive use of the implement there.
Yeah, well, we can see exactly why that happened now with the Revolt card coming down and making a 4/3 for just 2 mana. So that's actually quite a strong play here for Kowalski. Not the best start you might think. Of course, the implement of ferocity has to be done at sorcery speed anyway, but the Greenwheel Liberator has come down to follow that up as a pretty big bit of juicy beef here. But look at this. It's a Walking Ballista, a constructed playable card, of course. We've seen this in the green-black aggressive decks recently, Szymon. And here is a 2/2. Well, it's going to do some work.
But that's already pretty crazy from the green-white deck. Turn 1 implement, turn 2 rare, turn 3 make your 2-drop a 3/3 and follow up with a 4/3 for 2 mana.
Yeah. Actually, let's not lose sight of that. That start is actually pretty bonkers. Let's be honest about this here. Tamas Horvath under a lot of pressure immediately, taking 7. Look at that. He's fearless, though. He just cops that one on the chin. Give it to me, he says. I'm a hungry boy. Kowalski following it up. Oh, with another Storm Rock. My goodness me. Is there any doubt in anyone's mind how this bloke is now 8-0? Look at this. Hitting his straps like no other. Szymon Gertzen. What a show.
Yeah, I think even for his deck, that's probably a little above average.
That is just absolutely bonkers here. So you can see it on your screen. Ether Storm Rock. Look at this. When it or another creature into the battlefield, you get energy. And if that's not enough, ladies and gentlemen, you can pay your energy to put +1/+1 counters on the rock and tap the opponent. It's an essay. It's an essay, my friends. It's Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace on an absolute house here. So Tamas Horvath already been taken to the cleaners by Kowalski. His Brazen Scourge not really living up to the huge thunder that his opponent's throwing down here.
And also Walking Ballista, it's never going to be bad, but it doesn't have the same power level. At least not in limited.
No, for sure. I mean, you've got to, if you can... Oh, and a Lathnu Sailback. Ooh, Tamas Horvath really... I mean, obviously he's done some stuff right this weekend. Maybe he's drawn the wrong half of his deck, but at the moment, geez, this is not an impressive show from Horvath, and Kowalski is just absolutely waltzing all over him.
No, I think deploying a common here was a clear mistake.
A tactical error, you would say. Well, Kowalski here, and just really putting the finishing touches on this game.
So let's see the The ballista, I still don't really see a use for.
No, at this point, I mean, it can't even trade with any of the creatures on board. That rock is just going to get bigger and bigger.
And Greenville Liberator is still not being dominated. The 5-mana 5/4 would still only trade with it.
Oh, yeah, look at that as well. So there's not even a way for Horvath to really get Kowalski to pump the brakes. I mean, it's hard enough to face down Netherstorm Rock as it is, but Horvath's going to have to pull something. He's not out of it. I mean, let's be real here. He's not completely down for the count, but he's going to have to pull something special out of thin air here.
Yeah, and based on what Kaladesh has taught us, Kaladesh Only Limited has taught us, you really need to remove the rock as soon as possible because you cannot play a fair game against it.
No, absolutely not. We see a follow-up play for Kowalski. He's calming down a little bit here. It's an Iron League steed. Still not a bad one. We're going to see it enter the battlefield, trigger the rock. And Kowalski has one question for his opponent. He's thinking about how he's going to ask it here. But he gets in there. He asks the question, can you smell what the rock is cooking? And the Lathnu Sailback certainly can. As the rock grows to a 4/4. And this is a huge hit here.
A 3/3 to block the 4/3, and then you could already chump block, but that's not going to be a winning play. 3, but you're actually forced to block with both creatures.
So the Ballista has to jump in the way here.
Yes.
That Iron League steed as a 3/3 haste has even turned the screws even faster here for Kowalski. And Horvath in the unenviable position of having to throw away his Ballista just like that.
If only damage still stacked. You know.
Oh, if only. I mean, yes, a shared sentiment by my magicians around the world. Kowalski gets dinged for 2 by the Walking Ballista. Walking no longer as it hits the scrap heap. So Horvath left with a lonely Lathnu Sailback. And those cards in hand as well. Oh, I can't see them getting him out of this one here.
Yeah, the release the Gremlin's quite powerful, but Kowalski managed to curve out with a bunch of non-artifacts.
He has used every single mana he's had, all the way from turn 1 through to turn 5. With that attune with Ether, it means he hasn't wasted a single mana, and that's how you win games Unlimited, Zimon.
Yes, and with this quality of cards, then it really it's almost impossible because you would need the same mana efficiency and a similar power level.
And you can see, look at that, Kowalski overjoyed with that performance. You can see just every line on that tired face overcome with jubilation. Tamas Horvath, he's going to have to dig deep now and come back. I mean, this is the thing. We've got to consider the fact that Tamas Horvath is at 8-0, right? He could be an absolute luck sack and have cruised his way to victory. But my money is on the fact that he has a great deck that's been well built, and he's backed it up with some solid skill and some tight play throughout the weekend. As we head over to the other side of the table here, on table number 2, we've got Haokang Wang here versus Manuel Daniger. Daniger here looks to be under the gun a little bit, and look at that. Oh my goodness me, that is a masterpiece, ladies and gentlemen, on the battlefield. Daniger. Oh, not anymore. Away it goes. I think that was an Oblivion Stone there to take care of all the things on the battlefield there. And now we're following it up with some Edgecrafters here. A lot of these Kaladesh cards have been sort of confined to the sidelines here. We haven't seen a lot of them around. Of course, the Edgecrafters, the Elegant Edgecrafters, have been an absolute house in Kaladesh Limited. We're not seeing so many of them this time around.
I'm remembering that they were quite impactful in
Speaking of quite impactful, my goodness me, look at this. I'm sorry to cut you off, Zimon, but how about this one here? Manuel Daniger being forced to discard a card at the end of his turn because down comes this demon, noted as Dr. Frank Carsten's pick of the best card in the set, the Herald of Anguish, a 5/5 with Improvise. Wang paying full price here, but all the same, an absolute monster, this one. 5/5, Improvise, flying, and makes your opponent discard a card at the end of your turn. But on top of that, you can sacrifice an artifact to give a creature -2/-2, disfiguring creatures at the low cost of an artifact and 2 mana. How about that?
It's not a fair card.
Slices and dices and does it all, Zimon. In comes the elegant edgecraft, as I should say. With a lot of mana up. He's expecting a combat trick here.
He has no reason to block with the life totals at 15-3.
Yeah, that's enough. So Hao Kang Wang picking up a tidy victory there off the back of his Herald of Anguish. So, I mean, what a house. Once again, unsurprising to see Wang at the top of the tables with a card like that, backed up, presumably with a decent deck.
And I have to say, black-white, I also quite like.
Mm-hmm.
It's somehow very, very clear that you want to reach a kind of value game state, where your cards are doing more than your opponents.
I mean, there are a lot of great payoff cards in white for Revolt, things like this, and even the black-white enchantment, the hidden stockpile really, powers and fuels the Revolt engines. And with cards like Airdrop Aeronauts and the Harpooner as well, you're doing well. But some of the best removal in those colors, there's Simon.
Plus the flicker effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really build decks that can stand up to green monsters or blue-red synergistic decks, artifact decks. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, but I think the removal in Aether Revolt is it's kicked up a notch, I think. Yes, and I think that's a good thing because you do need mana-efficient ways to deal with fast vehicle starts. You need to punish people more. You need to be able to punish them more for basically just relying on vehicles and a few evasive creatures and just turning everything sideways.
Well, Simon, before you made the observation that you think that in this format a lot of it is about building up one threat or having asking a question that the opponent is hard-pressed to answer, there's a lot of stuff in blue that revolves around tempo-oriented gameplay, or in black, clearing the way for one creature to get through. And I guess the converse of that is if you have enough answers, you can run your opponent out of questions.
Yes, but you really need them to be mana efficient. You need them to be versatile. You need to be able to hit vehicles, whether animated or not.
Mm-hmm.
That often requires instance. So there are a lot of hoops you have to jump through as a control deck.
Yeah,
that's in quotes, but basically as a deck that wants the game to go long.
But we've seen this with lists like the one that Seth Manfield is playing today. He's playing a very removal-heavy black-white deck, and Zimon, I have to say, I agree with you. Black-white was not the color combination that I was looking at coming into this weekend. I'm thinking it's going to be red-green. I'm thinking that it's going to be black-green. But we've seen some really, really strong performances from some unexpected color combinations.
Yes. Red-white was stronger in the early rounds.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't really been as popular.
Yeah, it hasn't had that legs.
Which tells me that a lot of the better players either didn't choose to play red-white, or that the red-white decks just weren't as successful.
We'll bring you over now to table number 3. Andrea Bignami here versus Bartosz Kalmash. And these guys on the third table, as I say, and they are also at 8-0. We're going to have at least 3 undefeated players as we move into day number 2. On table number 1, they're still shuffling and mulliganing. So we'll get a quick look at what's going on here. Once again, Zimon, we do have 2 green decks facing off at the undefeated level here.
And green-black and green-red, I would say, have been the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by green-white.
Yeah, blue has really not had a very good tournament, I have to say. We saw some in the earlier round just go down, really. Go down without too much to say. And I would be surprised to hear that many blue decks are amongst the top tables.
No, I have to say Eric Froelich, probably one of the better blue decks and, of course, one of the best players in this hall.
We'll move back to table 1 now that they're ready. A very quick glimpse at table 3 there. And we have Horvath on a mulligan to 5, so he'll be really hoping that for some magic here as Kowalski, as we saw an enormously strong start from him, and he's done exactly the same thing. Are we going to see SRAM? Is it the exact same one? It is. Look at this. Game number 1, exactly the same as game number 2. Here it goes. Kowalski 100% to win here, Zimon, almost certainly. Not quite. I'm getting a glare of indifferent disbelief from Zimon Gertzen. We'll see how Tamas Horvath, however, is going to come up against this. The senior edificer being held off by the Ether Chaser at this point. What can Horvath conjure up here? And on turn number 3, has he got a way to add to the board?
It took me a second to understand that you were making a joke about past results influencing the probability of
Zimon,
future outcomes.
I have leapt to the defense of your people in my time living in your country for so long about you not all being humorless cretins, but I tell you what, you make it hard for me, my friend. You make it very hard. Comedy really does seem to be no laughing matter in Germany sometimes. Horvath also in a position where it's no laughing matter for him as he decides how he's going to navigate this tricky spot.
He's releasing the gremlins. It took him a while to decide if he really wanted to just eat an implement.
Well, he's disrupting the game plan of Kowalski at least a little bit, and he's also utilising his cards, and I think that's so important at this stage to make sure Horvath doesn't fall too far behind. He's already mulliganed ferociously, and he doesn't want to make it much worse.
Yes, and one more thing is that he knows he will not have the most targets for this sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting his little bit of value there, basically Viridian Shaman, if you think of it that way, is more than fine.
Yeah, sure. Making a 2/2, eating up an artifact, disrupting Kowalski just a little bit, and then also the Ether Chaser can come across and snag a little servo token there as well. So Horvath developing his board nicely, but Kowalski with a full grip and no play on turn number 3. Simon Gertzen, what do you make of that?
That might be the result of getting rid of the implement here. Kowalski's turn would have looked a lot better had he been able to make a 3/3, and drawing that card could have made the difference between having a play or not.
Well, Kowalski, I mean, there's any number of things he could be representing. We could see something like an impeccable timing, although we haven't seen too much of these white conditional removal spells in this format. A lot of creatures being kind of outclassing these, the impeccable timings and the other sort of combat-based removal.
I think you really want to have. You would rather have combo tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Give your creature +1/+2. Give your creature +3/+3. At least you can use it on defense and on offense.
Yeah, stuff like Built to Last is taking a much higher position rather than say something like Death Dismissal.
Or certain things like Skywhaler's Shot, Appetite for the Unnatural, that if they have a target, they are guaranteed to kill it.
So Horvath now on the offensive. That Ether Chaser seems to be chasing the Ether off the side of your screen there. And Kowalski... Oh, he does have the 4th land. I can see a mountain in his hand. Did we see a red card in game number 1?
I don't think so. I'm not even sure if we saw the mountain.
No. No, I think he played about 3 cards before winning the game, so I don't think we did. And here is the Iron Tread Crusher. Oh, and look at this, going to draw a card off of the SRAM as well. Kowalski's happy about that.
And that's a cast trigger, so no way to interact with that.
But a Pyrohelix is going to take care of the Senior Edificer here.
Yeah, maybe not the best sequencing.
Yeah, not a great way to time that spell. Could have been done in the upkeep. Could have just been done. No, well, on your turn to avoid revolt.
The thing is, at that moment you are not sure what to do with Chandra's Pyrohelix, but still it seems unnecessary to give your opponent that card.
But check this out, Tamas Horvath on a mulligan to 5. He is now really, really hitting his straps. As Spontaneous Artist comes down and knocks Kowalski down to 6, he doesn't have a creature in play. Are we going to see a miraculous recovery here from Tamas Horvath? After Yuzimon Gertzen confirmed Kowalski to be 100% to win only 5 minutes previous.
And we know Horvath's deck has at least one more haste creature.
His energy reserve is empty at the moment, but should he be able to generate any kind of energy, he can give any creature he plays haste. Kowalski here, amazingly, with his back against the wall after a stronger start.
And an incredible deck.
Not forced to mulligan as badly as his opponent. I think he did go to 6. And staring down the barrel of a gun here, on top of an Iron Tread Crusher.
Yeah, it looks like this game is 100% to end with a win by Horvath, thanks to his haste creatures.
Yeah, he's done such an incredible job of turning this around, and all of a sudden, we were talking. We didn't. I mean, the release the Gremlins play, we decided fine, it was okay. But here it's proved to be pretty decisive because that pressure that this Viridian Shaman has put on now.
And Horvath knows he's the red-green deck. He's playing against the green-white deck. We don't know what the red splash is for. And he has seen the rock. He has seen that if he plays the long game, his opponent will just have the higher power level overall. Whereas you want to really use Spontaneous Artist, you want to use Brazen Scourge, and you just want to finish the game, which might actually happen next turn.
Kowalski now.
Oh,
He goes reaching for 1 mana. Is it a
it's
shock?
Not a red spell, no.
Look at that. The picture of concentration here. Oh, it's an Instrument of Ferocity. And he's going to draw. He's going to dig. Put a +1/+1 counter on your dude. What is he looking for here?
Maybe he has the Skywheeler's shot. Oh, no.
Oh, look at that. Okay, very very interesting little line there as he gets the Harpoonist down to take care of the creature, the artist that was made into a 4/4.
And here you see, and this is once again, vehicles, great on offense, less good on defense.
Yeah, they eat up your blocking options, and Thomas Horvath has the Brazen Scourge in hand. What a turn of events, although he's not going to play it here.
Why not? He has another way to victory.
Oh,
I assume.
I see. I can see another red card hiding out in his hand. What could it be?
Still surprising not to play the Brazen Scourge that you've already revealed to your opponent in game 1.
I think it's an Invigorated Rampage, so it doesn't matter how Kowalski blocks here. I think he is. I think he's just absolutely for it. So Invigorated Rampage, you can either give 1 creature +4/+0 and trample, or 2 creatures +2/+0 and trample. Now, Kowalski can block exactly 1 creature. So he is dead to Invigorated Rampage in a major way. And we see the block on the servo token. And here is Invigorated Rampage, giving them all +2/+0. And look at that, Tamas Horvath taking it out in true style. Ladies and gentlemen, look at it. What a fantastic recovery from him after a mulligan to 5. Left, right, good night, he says to Gregor Kowalski. And these guys are going to game 3 all of a sudden, completely unexpectedly, Zimon.
And with the momentum on Horvath's side, because he was crushed in game 1. He mulliganed to 5. This is where Kowalski just cannot help to think that the 9-0 is within reach.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a very, very swingy match so far. And I mean, we sort of had Horvath out for the count, but he's managed to crawl his way back into it, claw his way back into a W, and he's got to be happy with that. We'll see how the cards fall as we move into game number 3 between these two. I mean, Tamas Horvath proved that he knows how to maneuver this deck, put early pressure on it, and pick up a W where it wasn't going to be found. So game 3 will be fascinating to see how things unfold. It's back now to Hao Kang Wang and Manuel Danninger here. And once again, we do see a green deck at the 8-0 level, but also the deck that you were talking about, the black-white deck. It's impressed you this weekend, Zimon.
Absolutely. And after this weekend, we might already be thinking less in terms of individual cards and more in terms of archetypes. And the black-white deck is certainly one that I would be happy to play.
Well, to me, it seemed like a bit of a puzzle. I didn't really know what it was supposed to look like or how it was supposed to be built, but here we've seen a real masterclass in getting this done by many players. And it's so impressed by Manfield, and I imagine that Wang is just as on top of things.
I think it's a bit more complicated because you are trying to utilize servos, you're trying to utilize Fabricate, Revolt, you're also using Enter the Battlefield trigger, so it's not just, you can't just say it's one mechanic.
No.
Like just as many +1/+1 counters as possible. It's doing a little bit of everything.
No, there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of moving parts to bring together, and there's not the sort of defined, rigid archetype that you might see in some of these green decks. We see Hao Kang Wang now getting in with a Night Market Aeronaut, a 4-mana 3/3 flyer. That's a great rate, but again, it relies on Revolt. You've got to have a way to trigger that, and he did with the other thing that you were saying, Zimon, a servo token. Wang seems to be in a decent spot here, but Danninger has a thing or two to say about it on his side of things. You can see the Ballista there coming down. The Walking Ballista is a 3/3.
That's, I think, the size you want to play it at. Because as a 2/2, it doesn't have quite the same impact, and 4 mana to put a single counter is just a little bit too expensive.
Yeah, it's not like Hangerback Walker in the sense that you play it on turn 2 and it immediately, you tick it up, and you know you're going to get a great return on that investment. It doesn't always shake out like that. The Ballista does require a little bit more of a careful time investment. It's like a delicate flower. Grow it up from a seedling.
Thank you for that. Actually, this is another one of these examples how mana sinks will be valuable in the late game, but still, this format is aggressive enough that you don't really want to be in the situation where you are activating such an ability.
No, that's a great point, actually. I mean, it's so nice to have these mana sinks in the late games. We see the automaton cycle and this sort of thing, providing players with a way to squirrel away excess mana in the late game. But no, that's a great point you make, Zimon, because you don't want to actually get there, do you? In many cases, you want to finish the game nice and early. So we can see Wang here stacking up some blocks. Ooh, but look at this. Ajani leaps into the fray, but Haokang Wang has a response of his own. Looks like a fatal push is going to come down before Ajani can cut that net in half with a heroic intervention.
And that's huge. That's...
Well, the converted mana cost of the Walking Ballista is 0.
Yes.
So it's always live with fatal push here. So that's a nice little sequence there here for Wang. But of course his 3/3 flyer did eat it to the Ballista.
Danninger still got quite a lot out of this turn.
Yeah.
But imagine had the heroic intervention resolved.
Yeah, that would have been huge.
Then it would have been a complete blowout.
But as it is, the Night Market Aeronaut cops a cold one between the shoulder blades from the Ballista, which of course eats it after the fatal push has been put on the stack. Back to Danninger now. Haokang Wang without a play. He's got 3 cards in hand. I imagine Danninger will be suspecting something. In comes the Renegade for 2. Nanam Renegade, I know you're a big fan of this card. I am too. A 1-mana Death Touch creature. It's back to Wang now. He draws what looked like, was that seemed like a Vengeful Rebel to me.
The Revolt...
-3/-3.
Wasteland Strangler. Just played as a 3-mana 3/2 though.
Well, that'll do it sometimes. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. The Renegade coming in. It's going to trade against this Vengeful Rebel here. And it's a Lathnu Sailback. What are your thoughts on this card? Pretty medium, huh?
Yes, but on the other hand, if your deck is lacking high-powered creatures, if your deck is lacking 5-drops, I think 5 mana 5/4 is a very reasonable size.
Just a bit of beef. As we see Skywhaler's Shot take care of the Sailback. That seems excessive to kill the little lizard with a harpoon meant for a while.
Wong was waiting for a target for the Skywhaler Shot for a while. You saw him pass the turn with 5 mana untapped, didn't do anything, and that was because Danninger didn't have that kind of target. And they are playing game 3, so Wong has a good idea of the other high-powered threat that Danninger might be having.
Ether Herder now for Danninger. That's back to Wang. Finds a swamp on the top of his library. He's flooding out a little bit, and this is where mana sinks come into it, Zimon Gertzen. He's looking for a way to spend this excess mana. He's got cards in his hand, then they are spells as well. I wonder what they could be here. We'll see if they come into play. But Danninger now, thinking about how he's going to maneuver through this turn. So here is that mana sink that we're looking for with the Cogwork Assembler. But as this game continues, we will head back to table number 1 to see how things shake out between Horvath and Kowalski. You can see Kowalski with the turn 2 SRAM once again. He's got it every time, Zimon.
Maybe he has 2 of them.
Maybe he has 3 of them. And in this case, however, Horvath is saying, you're going to have 0 of them, buddy. Chandra's Pyrohelix sending the senior edificer to the bin.
Yeah, this time he certainly didn't want Kowalski to just get a free card, especially with Renegade Freighter. Super high-powered follow-up.
Yeah, that would have been absolutely bonkers for Kowalski had he drawn a card off the SRAM. But as it is, the train pulls into the station and the passengers begin to jump on board.
I actually liked Horvath's line last game where he let Kowalski draw a card because he knew that if Kowalski deploys a vehicle, his combination of cards would be lethal.
Well, in this case here, Horvath with the Leopard, and Kowalski getting in there now with the Freighter, thanks to the Life Crafter there.
Yeah, only a non-revolted Life Crafter this time.
It's. I mean, we saw it put to huge effect, used a huge effect in the last time. Sorry, the Greenwheel Liberator it's called, I should say, not the Life Crafter. The Greenwheel Liberator. Just coming down as a 2-1, but it is enough to jump aboard that train.
Which is what was important here.
And smack Tamith Horvath upside the head like Leonardo DiCaprio's wife in Inception. Down comes an Ether Chaser. It's going to buff up Horvath's energy pool even further now.
That's it. That's not a strong turn. A 2-drop, no land. And Kowalski is in the driver's seat here.
Yeah. And that driver's seat is at the front of a Renegade Freighter. Toot, all aboard. Next up, your face once again, says Kowalski.
Still one of the absolute best cards, best commons in this limited format.
Yeah, hasn't lost much of its impact, really. Haven't seen quite as many of them this weekend, which is just it was just to be expected. Not as many packs of Kaladesh being busted open. But all the same, a very high impact common and just coming in a 3 mana.
I really like how Kowalski is just playing out his revolt cards because he knows that's like triggering them is not the ultimate goal. You want to curve out.
No, and in this case where he is really, sort of pedal to the metal here, hitting Horvath down to 10 already. And the other thing is, he's missing his land drops.
Both players are, actually.
That's true. So it's just about getting aggressive, getting on the front foot.
I really like that Kowalski has 2 green implements in his deck because it's the right card to like smooth out his draws, to give him some synergy, and especially a way to trigger Revolt whenever he wants.
And it's just so cheap, really. The cost is so low and the upside is so high. I mean, it only happens as a sorcery, but 99% of the time, that's what you're wanting to do. I mean, it'd be great as a combat trick as well, but you're wanting it to trigger Revolt.
And it replaces itself, and if you have it in your starting hand, the initial mana you invest on turn 1 is basically free because it doesn't really compete with your curve.
This is such a great point as well. So much of the time you're not doing anything on turn 1. You're playing a land and saying go. And
if you would, it would most likely be a bad card anyway.
Yeah, what are you playing? An Ornithopter? It costs 0. Play on any turn, really.
Haven't seen a single Ornithopter this weekend.
Wise. Players coming here prepared, ready to go. Marshall Sutcliffe can sleep easy tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Kowalski now finds his 4th land. And it's Iron Tread Crusher now. In comes the monster truck, but no attacks here.
Quite conservative. Kowalski, he sees his opponent isn't deploying anything, so doesn't want to give Horvath the opportunity to maybe use one of his combat tricks to get a profitable trade.
That's a very interesting point there. Yeah, I mean, if Kowalski just ships the turn and says go, he's used his mana, he's deployed a 4-drop, and by doing nothing, by not attacking, he denies Horvath the opportunity to use a combat trick. It means that he's essentially Time Walk Horvath in at least one sense.
Also doesn't really expose his most powerful creatures, which are the vehicles, to cards like Welding Spark or Harness Lightning. So overall, this is exactly what you should be doing, even though it feels weird to go into this kind of posture, this waiting posture, as an aggressive deck that has already brought down the opponent down to 10.
The other thing is, though, Kowalski, the pure quality of the cards we've seen, we know he can ride an Either Storm Rock to victory. We know that he can get there. He doesn't have to race too much, and especially with Horvath continuing to miss land drops, Kowalski knows he's got a lot of breathing room here.
The thing is, he can still win with his rares and his powerful cards. So this is just simply a strategic point. If 2 players are playing a game and one player just stops developing resources, then you shouldn't give them even the slightest chance to use their cards beneficially.
Yeah, sure. That's a great point, and I think identifying that point where you need to shift gears, whether it's up or down, Zimon, whether you need to know, I need to put more pressure on here, or you step back a bit and say, right, I'm going to give myself the space I need to win this game. That's what separates good Magic players from great Magic players. And Kowalski's sitting here at the top tables, and he clearly knows his way around a game of Magic. So we've received word from our producer sitting behind the desk, Stephen Leeming. He's told us in his dulcet baritone that Wang did manage to get up 2-1 over his opponent. This is the final game in the final match of our featured content here at GP Prague for day number 1. I certainly hope you've had a good time today, my friends. I've had an absolute blast with you. It's been a true pleasure, of course. We'll be back tomorrow with more as soon as we're finished here with round number 9. So I hope we can count on your company as we navigate the turgid waters of day number 2 here in the Czech Republic. Simon Gertz and Tim Willoughby, Mateusz Adelkai will be back with you tomorrow as well to take you all the way to the top 8 in the finals, my friends. At 10 o'clock local time, you can tune in and see our handsome faces and get amongst some more Kaladesh Ether Revolt Limited.
Daredevil Dragster joined the party. Kowalski not really concerned about playing too many vehicles, as we can see.
No, just chuck them all in there. Chuck them all in there, big fella. Draw some cards off SRAM.
It was a point of discussion when Kaladesh came out, this question. And I'm still very sure that you don't want 3 or 4 Sky Skiffs in your deck. But
no.
These high power, high toughness, low crew cost, low casting cost vehicles, why not play all of them?
Yeah, Daredevil Dragster in particular, a nice one, seeing as it fuels, can fuel your hand so nicely. We see Walking Ballista come down as just a removal spell. What do you think? What are your thoughts there?
It's a huge tell. It shows Kowalski that Horvath would love to use 2 mana during combat. It's exactly the payoff that Kowalski is getting for his patient play here.
Yeah, right. We did see the infusion there, the Highspire infusion in the hand of Tamas Horvath. So you're really reading the signs he's in on.
It's the first striker actually makes it easier to predict because it does mean that any combat trick, even if it's just power boosting, is basically a removal spell. And Kowalski can take his time. He is he has the option to attack, but he's not forced to.
Well, Highspire Infusion here, the card that he's going to have to play around if he wants to navigate this combat successfully. But Kowalski, he's fingering that card. He's having a think about how he's going to do it here.
You can't keep going like this forever. You do have to do something, and you do also know that Horvath's deck has, for example, a Release the Gremlins. Release the Gremlins for 5 mana.
Yeah.
You don't want this to happen. You want to somehow find the right balance.
You're waiting for a train, and here it is, the Renegade Freighter coming in. Is this the point where Horvath is going to snap off this Highspire Infusion? The Freighter.
We should talk about Daredevil Dragster. Maybe tomorrow when we have 15 minutes of empty time, I will give a short...
15 minutes is short. I see. A short analysis of this card here. But right now that Dragster is hanging back. You can see it there on your screen. Courtesy of our good friend and colleague Rich Hagen, manning the battle station over here, looking very proud of himself. He's loving it. Adoring fans cheering him on from behind him there. But right now it is all about this Highspire Infusion on the Leopard here. Aetherstream Leopard. Jumping in front of the Renegade Express.
And has Kowalski been expecting it? What is his play here? Because he has been playing with the exact knowledge that this was a possibility.
Oh, it's a Highspire Infusion of Kowalski's own, and that means Horvath is unfortunately left without options. Away goes the Leopard.
And a bit of trample damage. I believe 2 points of trample damage should go through as well.
It's very handy there. A nice attack from Kowalski. And once again, Renegade Freighter really proving its worth.
But there's the land, so the Gremlins might come to save the day, to turn the game around, maybe.
So I saw a mobile garrison in there. I can see Chandra's Revolution. I can see the spell that won him the game previously, Simon Gertzen, of course. We saw it do some work. But here is Revolution. Here's the Chandra's Revolution. That's going to tap down a land. It's not going to be untapped just yet. The Invigorated Rampage still hanging out in Horvath's hand.
That's aggressive.
Getting in there for 2 now with the Ether Chaser. Going to chase down some damage. Slap it right out of Kowalski's gob.
Sure, he's leaving Kowalski with restricted on mana and with only vehicles. And he has a blocker. at least a good blocker for non-trampling creatures. But this was quite risky, I think.
But look at this. It's certainly paid off here for Kowalski, or for Horvath here. He's tapped down Kowalski's forest. Kowalski unable to deploy anything just yet and has to ship the turn with 3 vehicles.
I think Horvath might want to actually kind of play this game where you do punish your opponent for having too many vehicles in their deck. The problem is, if you are still behind in life total, any creature from the top will punish you.
So check this out. We've got a Spontaneous Artist coming down. It's going to give itself haste here. And are we going to see an all-out attack? 1, 2. No, not quite. Keeping back the Ether Chaser here, but still a tidy attack here for 4 damage. And Kowalski now, he's under a little bit of pressure here, Zimon.
Oh, it's quite a bit of pressure. And Horvath is once again signaling that he is holding a combo trick. Kowalski has already seen Invigorated Rampage with +4/+0 or 2 creatures get +2/+0, and it's sufficient. It's sufficient with the first strike to deal with any of the trains that could come in, or it might be threatening lethal next turn.
Mate, race cars, trains, monster trucks, it doesn't matter. That Ether Chaser is going to hold him off. As you so adroitly pointed out before, Zimon, the first strike turns any combat trick that boosts power into a straight-up removal spell. It's just like the Doctor ordered here. Kowalski is not left with a good attack, and Horvath knows it. Can he smell it on the air?
And Kowalski is going through this game right now. He will probably go through this game tonight as well. With everything that he has on the battlefield, it feels like this shouldn't have gone down like this.
He'll be hammering the Twitch replay later on.
He had options, right? He could have just declined to attack. Declined to let his opponent use his mana. I think another option would have been to not save your vehicle with your combat trick, because you were already vehicle flooded. Instead, he could have used maybe his 2/2 creature to crew the freighter, to crew one of the more expensive vehicles, and that way somehow get out from this vehicle flood.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that. I think losing his vehicles have a lot less utility the more that he has of them, because you can crew up all the vehicles with each other, but at the end of the day, you're only really getting one good attack in.
Yeah, and we didn't quite see him chain these vehicles, like crewing a vehicle with another vehicle. I think if you decide that you will allow your opponent to use his combat trick that he's been representing the whole game, at that point you have to be willing to give up one of your vehicles.
Here we have the Infiltrator. It's coming in. It's going to make its presence known, audaciously infiltrating this particular facility. Can't be blocked by artifact creatures. A 2-mana 3/1. Useful ability in a world full of servo tokens, but right now the only thing that this is going to be infiltrating is the cockpit of a monster truck, ladies and gentlemen. I spoke too soon. The cockpit of a monster truck. I spoke too early. Oh, no. Okay. We are in a world of takesies backsies here, ladies and gentlemen, like you wouldn't believe. Down comes the Greenbelt Rampager. It's going to eat up the remaining energy, and as a 3/4, it's going to hit the bin. And this is important for Kowalski. He's managed to deploy 2 pilots. An egregious flavor violation with an elephant driving some kind of vehicle. I don't know what vehicle licensing laws are like on the plane of Kaladesh. They seem to be exceedingly lax, I would say.
The consulate has other things to worry about.
Yeah, I suppose they're not worrying about elephants renewing their driver's licenses at the moment.
But this is a difficult turn. What does Kowalski have? Does he have another trick, or is he just hoping to force a block here and somehow turn this into his favor?
I think what's key here, Zimon, is that he's attacked with 2 of the vehicles. One attack with one vehicle is so weak because it runs right into the Invigorated Rampage here, but here he's still pushing through damage.
And at the same time, he's forcing a block. I think that's absolutely crucial.
Kowalski is on another level, however. He's looking to get in with the Invigorated Rampage down here for lethal.
Horvath is going for the throat. He has the Spontaneous Artist, so he gets another haste creature here.
He does indeed. Look at that. He just takes the hit. He doesn't care.
He stole this game. He stole this match.
He stole this match out of nowhere, conjuring a win off the back of invigorated Rampage. And Tamas Horvath here, brinkering on the edge. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable scenes here. Unbelievable scenes at GP Prague. What a way to finish our coverage of game number 1. Kowalski can't believe it. Horvath, look at that. A quiet smile plays around the edges of his lips. He is very, very happy with that win.
Remember game 1?
Yeah.
Remember the mulligan to 5?
What an absolute dismantling that was in game number 1. And game number 2, we had him out for the count. We had him on the ropes. He was done. And then Horvath, look at that. That big smile of relief on his face. Kowalski, he knows he's been beaten fair and square. There's no shame in losing like that. He's going to be, maybe there is a little bit of regret playing on his mind here. He's going to be watching those replays long and hard tonight, my friends, as we welcome you back to the booth for the very last time today here on day number 1 of GP Prague. What a pleasure it's been to have the company of our viewers around the world, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending your weekend with us so far. We are very much looking forward to getting amongst it again tomorrow. After an absolute barnstormer of a last round, Zimon, we're expecting some pretty big things tomorrow.
And I'm looking forward to 3 rounds of drafting.
Yeah, we're going to get the old Draft Arena fired up tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to your company then, my friends. But for now, that's it on behalf of the rest of the coverage team. It's Riley Knight and Zimon Gertzen signing off, saying good night. We will see you back here at 10 o'clock European time. I'm counting on your company, my friends. It's going to